Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Keep it going. Keep it going. Don't give them that awkward walk. You know what I mean? Like where they stop, and then you got to walk quietly to. Yeah. What's going on, man? Well, welcome, Bobby.
Thank you.
Is this your first live podcast? We were just talking backstage, and he was like, "Hey, I got to level with you. I have no idea what's going on here." So.
No, I actually live. I did one before, but it was like really impromptu. I was just at I think it was Wrestling Con, and I just kind of jumped in there.
Right.
So this is the only one that's been planned beforehand.
This is the first scheduled live podcast.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good, man. I mean, I think the first question that comes to mind with you right now is what you're doing with your career, because you know you see things on Impact or GFW, I guess, and you go, well, I'm not wrestling anymore. I'm doing MMA. But like on TV, it looks like storyline. And then you read on the internet that, no, he's retired from wrestling. And then you show up on wrestling again. But then you're calling out Fedor. And where are you at today with your career?
I think I'm trying to make a power play.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, what we always say is whoever pays the most. And right now, I'm in that kind of pivotal point in my career where with MMA, they really want me to go for a title. They really want me to really push it. And
who's they? Your camp, Bellator? Like who is
Bellator.
Bellator does the promotion.
Yeah, because when I originally started with Bellator, it was one of those things where I wanted to fight, but the only reason I was signing with them is because I was trying to get into TNA and for Impact or Global Force,
whatever,
or whoever we are right now. But I was trying to get in with them, and for some reason they kept on saying, we don't have anything right now.
Really?
Yeah.
So coming off of your WWE run, TNA is saying we don't have anything. I guess TNA looks different then, though, right? That's when is that when Kevin Nash and Kurt Angle and these guys were all there?
Well, the first time they said yeah, and then I went in and everything was cool.
Okay.
But I took a little break off, and for me, I took a break off for two things, from fighting and from wrestling, because when I first started both of those, I got thrusted right into the main promotion right off the bat. Like I was in WrestleMania after 2.5 years of wrestling.
Right.
So everything was really fast for me. Same when I was fighting. After my second fight, I'm fighting in Strikeforce on I think it was Showtime at the time. So everything went so fast for me. So
you have that classic problem of being hugely successful right away.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people, they were like, what are you going to do next? Well, I pulled back from both of them. I pulled back from the WWE and I pulled back from Strikeforce, and I went and fought small promotions, and I did a lot of indie work for some time. I mean, I did it for a few years just to kind of learn.
Was that because you felt like you were lacking a foundation, and or you just wanted that experience?
No, I believed I was still phenomenal. It was just I thought there was a part of wrestling that I didn't understand, and there was a part of fighting that I didn't understand either. Because with fighting, when you go in there, it was just, I got to finish this. You know, your adrenaline's all up. You get adrenaline dump and everything else. And I was like, man, I really want to get to the point where I feel comfortable in the cage fighting.
Right.
I have the ability, I just don't feel comfortable. And then with the wrestling, I was like, man, I'm in here with some of the greatest wrestlers. Like, I remember one time we were doing Survivor Series and everybody was coming out, and Ray came out, and I'm still standing out there watching all the entrances wide-eyed, and he was like, stop being a fan. And I was like, oh yeah, back in character. So
I just think it's super cool, like watching all these awesome wrestlers come out.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be one of the awesome wrestlers. Knock it off.
I pulled myself back, and I was like, I want to go to independence, so I want to see some of the stuff that some of the guys that I've been working with are talking about all the time. So I did independence, and then I was fighting in some of the smaller promotions where I just felt comfortable. I kept telling the promoters, don't put me as main event. I don't want my name to be as a spotlight for this thing. I want to be under the radar. Like, I don't even want you to advertise. And they were like, well, we can't pay you if we can't advertise you. I was like,
yeah,
damn.
That was the thing, though. You were like, I don't want you to advertise me. Definitely still pay me my rate. Yeah. Like, this is definitely still.
So that's what I did. And I took a little time off, and then when I was trying to get back into Impact, they were like, well, we're going on with this and that, and then Bellator was like, well, come back and come fight with us. And I was like, I really want to go back to wrestling. But then Bellator came through and they said, hey, look, let's try to talk this out. And then they start putting numbers together, and I was like, all right, I can't
say
do
no.
that. But the whole thing was, I told him, I said, I'm going to sign with you guys because you guys are on Spike and Impact's on Spike or TNA's on Spike. So eventually I think I can do both. And that was the whole plan. But at the time, Impact was doing all kinds of other stuff, and they just said, we don't have anything for you.
What were they doing at the time? Because now I feel like your name is so closely associated with TNA, and like you're definitely one of the top guys now. And when you just think and you start listing the top guys over the course of TNA in the last 10 years or however long they've been in business, your name inevitably comes up quickly. So what was going on that they were like, we don't have anything for Lashley?
Well, obviously they were trying to sink the ship. That was the only thing that I don't know. It was. I think it was one of those things where I think the internet controls a lot of things that the wrestling business does, and it's kind of scary like that, because I think at the time the one way to keep all the big names out of Impact or TNA was to say, oh, they're just using ex-WWE guys. So I think that was a big stigma. They were like, oh, we can't just bring another ex-WWE guy in here. But at the same time, when you look at that, I turned to him, I said, that's like if I had a pro football team and say a great quarterback went out. I don't want to pick him up because he
played for that other team.
Yeah. Like when we get Peyton Manning, I was like, don't pick up Peyton Manning. Let's get this guy fresh out of college because we can groom him. No, let's get this guy that already has a fan base and everything else. And that's what I've been telling them now. So some of the guys that are coming in now, I'm like, man, of course we want Al Patron. Of course we want Johnny Mundo. Of course we want these guys because it's going to help out the show. But anyway, they signed it, and that's the only way that I got in is because Kurt got hurt. Kurt got hurt at one of the right before pay-per-view, and he was supposed to work EC3, and they needed someone. So they called me up, and they said, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, just got back from the gym. I'm about to go hang out with my kids. And they said, can you come this weekend and do one spot with EC3? And I was like, sure. I didn't know what they want me to do, anything. And I came, and I did one thing, and that's all it was supposed to be. It was just that. But when I came out, the crowd was chanting like, "Thank you, Dixie," and Dixie saw it, and wide-eyed, so they signed me to a contract.
See, that's a great turnaround because, like you said, the reason you're not showing up is because TNA is getting self-conscious because they're listening to the fans so much that they don't want to hire an ex-WWE guy. So when you're listening to the fans chant, "Thank you, Dixie," are you like, okay, that's a good thing because they actually do. This is all that they listen to.
Right. And when they did that, it was kind of one of those pause moments, and I turned and stared at Dixie in the stands, and I was like,
trying to tell you.
they want something.
So let's go back to the beginning a little bit. How did you get involved with WWE? How did your developmental deal start? How did you end up in OVW?
That's the best part of everything for me. I'm a huge Kurt Angle fan, and how I actually got in is Kurt was at the Olympic Training Center when I was there training. Mm-hmm. It was a year before the Olympics. It was 2003, and he was doing a vignette for the WWE, and he was needing some people to kind of work out with, and I was there. And the whole time Kurt kept on looking at me, and I was like, man, I watched Kurt when I was in high school win his national championship because I wrestled. So, right. Of course, I was following him that. So I was a professional wrestling fan, but I was an amateur wrestling fan also. So I'm sitting there watching Kurt win nationals, and then I went to college, and then I started winning nationals. And Kurt's at the Olympic Training Center, and he's winning the Olympics. And then next thing you know, I moved to the Olympic Training Center. And then now I'm here with Kurt, and he's in professional wrestling. So I'm watching him in professional wrestling, trying to compete here. And then he comes by me, and he was like, what do you... He said, man, you got a great look. He said, you ever think about professional wrestling?
Well, I was just going to ask you, were you this big when you were wrestling then or close to this size?
You know what? I hate to say this, but I look big on TV.
I mean, you're sitting next to me. You look big.
It's still TV.
Does he look... when you guys saw Bobby Lashley walk out here, did you think like, oh, I thought he was bigger on TV? Or were you like, no, that's a giant man?
Yeah. Well, I get that a lot of times. People are like, man. And then, what they build me at 6'4", 300 pounds. And I'm nowhere close to there. So, I mean, height-wise, I'm close. But as far as weight, I'm not. I stay really lean.
You're still bigger than most amateur wrestlers. Like, you don't have the physique of an average amateur wrestler. Like, when you look at clips of Brock Lesnar wrestling amateur, he does not look like an amateur wrestler. He's this beast in a singlet. You know what I mean? Is that kind of what you look like as an amateur wrestler?
I look like maybe a little smaller version of myself.
Okay.
And if you saw it in a picture, you wouldn't know if I was in WWE or if I was in.
Gotcha.
wrestling.
Okay.
But early on, I mean, I was super tiny growing up, super tiny. Like I was in high school at 110 pounds. Soaking wet.
Really? And so, what did you start lifting weights?
I didn't start putting on size until I went to Olympic Training Center, and I think the reason why there is because I think I was probably malnourished for my entire life. I grew up with nothing, so I mean. My diet consisted of like cereal and whatever else you can get. So I think I was just pretty much malnourished. I was just a small kid.
You just had no food. That's
food.
why you were skinny.
Yeah. And then when I went to college, I mean, it was living on the cafeteria food and then Taco Bell and beer at night. So
right.
It was hard to actually develop. And then
but you never got fat?
No. I don't think my body doesn't hold fat.
Wow.
Like everybody asks me what kind of diet. They're like, oh, what are you taking in diet? Like, bro, like your body's just so thankful from the years of not eating. It's just like whatever food, we'll do the right things with it. I told people, I was like, I can eat a large pizza right now, and then tonight pull off my shirt and my abs are like.
That must make people just so happy for you, right? No, it doesn't piss anybody off, I'm sure.
Haters.
But so, all right, so you're in the Olympic Center and you meet Kurt Angle and he's asking what you're doing, like what do you want to do? Because that is a thing, right? Like with amateur wrestling, it's a passion for so long, but most amateur wrestlers get to this place where there's not money in it.
Exactly, and that's what Kurt told me. Kurt was like, man, he was like, I know you love it here, and I've been here for years, but after the Olympics, man, you might want to really think about doing something else. He said, we don't have a pro sport. He said, right now, he said, if you played any other sport, you'd be making millions. Because you're at the top. I mean, I won nationals my sophomore, junior, and senior year in college. I was a 3-time national champion. Then I went to the World Championships, and I took a silver medal at the World Championships. So he's like, man.
Does that play into your brain as an amateur wrestler? Because he's right. Carmelo Anthony had one phenomenal year at Syracuse, and he gets, after 1 year, multi-million-dollar deal in the NBA, and has been making millions ever since. Like, as you become great at this sport, is there something in your head that goes, why isn't there that $1 million contract waiting for me? Or does it not even occur to you because it's just wrestling?
It didn't even occur to me. I never even thought about that. Like, we killed ourselves for a medal or just standing on the podium. Right. That was it. Didn't think about anything else besides that. It was just, I got to go. Right. I got to bust my ass. And that's what happened with Kurt when he was telling me all this. He called me, and then he gave my number to Briscoe, Gerald Briscoe. He called me up, and he was like, hey, man, we'd like to bring you on for a tryout or bring you up to Louisville and get going. And it was in 2003, so the Olympics was in 2004. So I was like, man, I really want the opportunity. I said, however, I've been wrestling for 20-something years. My goal is to make it to the Olympics and win the Olympics. So if we can wait a little bit, I could possibly do it.
That's a ballsy move.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. It was a hard thing because it was like your whole goals, all your passions, but then there's money, and then there's like living out your childhood fantasy also. So
you were a pro wrestling fan growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it was like, which one do we actually do? And that was a tough decision, but that's what I told him. And I think it was like in May that it happened. So after that, the World Team Trials was another big tournament that was coming up in the next month. So I was like, all right, I need to focus all my attention on this wrestling, and that's where I'll see what I'm going to do. I had a really good showing at that wrestling match. I was like one point away from making it onto the World team, which the next year would have been the Olympic team. So I was right there. And then, this story's come out like a million different times, but my whole turning point with everything was, I think it was July. So I talked to Briscoe in May, and I think it was like in July. We had a little bit of downtime, and I went to a bank, the whole bank robbery story. I went to this. I had time off, and I was going to a bank to go deposit some money.
Mm-hmm.
I walked into the bank, and how it worked is like the tellers were, tellers are in the front, and then there's one line, and then you break off into when they call you up. So when I went into the bank, I walked to the back of the line. As soon as I stood there, it was like maybe like half a second. I stood there. As soon as I stopped, I heard boom, 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 and the first part, because I saw the tape afterwards, the first part was the guy was kicking the door open, and he was he was firing as he went through. Now, I don't think he was trying to shoot at me, but I think when he kicked, he pulled the trigger.
Right. Oh, so he did it by mistake, you think? Like he just didn't...
I hope he wasn't trying to shoot me. I feel bad if he was. But
I'd be sad if he was trying to shoot me.
Yeah, and you missed. But when he did it, I just... Because I saw everyone screaming like this, I turned like this. And when I turned, the bullet went straight through the wall, and I took a dive down on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit the ground, boom, I just lay there. And like I say so many times, and it's so vivid, it brings me back to that point. All I could think of the whole time when I'm laying on the ground with my face there, my ears burning, my face is burning because we were so close, I kept thinking, it's not supposed to end like this. That's what I kept thinking. That's the only thing that was going in my head. It's not supposed to end like this, because I thought I was done. So it's not supposed to end like this. I kept thinking that, and then I'm just squeezing. Everything was so tense. I'm squeezing my eyes. Everything was just ridiculous. And then I started relaxing. I was like, relax, 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 relax. And then I heard more shots. Pow, pow. So he was shooting at some of the tellers or something like that. They jumped over. They stole a whole bunch of money, and then they took off. And when they took off, that's when I got up, and my knee was like the size of a softball, like on top of my knee. So when I hit the ground, my knee just exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was messed up. And after that happened, I immediately had to go to the emergency room. They checked out my knee, and what happened is I completely ruptured my bursa sac. So the fluid in your knee.
But like it's just so weird because you wrestle for 20 years, and this big injury happens because you went to the bank.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just what do we? Life is strange.
Yeah, especially mine. I mean, eventually I'm gonna write a book. I guess I have to.
I would think so. I would think so. Especially because like every bad thing that happened to you, or every risky situation, I feel like you've been in. Like being a pro wrestler is a risk. Being an amateur wrestler is a risk. Like all these things that are dangerous, you do, and the consequences from those things happen to you. But over in a McDonald's or something,
Right.
like has nothing to do with the sport that you're actually participating in.
Yeah, that's what usually happens, especially with this one.
So what happens? So you have this knee injury and also this experience of like, oh my God, life is fleeting.
Yeah.
And is that when you kind of come to terms with the fact that I gotta be a pro wrestler? This is gonna keep me out of the Olympics, obviously.
No, well, when I went to the hospital, they said we have to go surgery, and I was like, well, I said, what is the recovery time? Because the Olympics was in 8 months.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, unfortunately, you're gonna have about a 6-month period. So I was like, man, 6 months, and then 2 months to get back in shape and get ready for it. And then at first I was like, I wasn't listening to anything he was saying. He said 6 months. I said that's for the average guy. I'm gonna be ready in 3 months, and then I'm gonna have enough time to get ready and go, because I'm gonna do more than the average person to get back. So I went to the surgery, had the surgery, and then I'm sitting at home, and probably a month after the surgery, my knee is like killing me. It fills back up with fluid. Now it's on the back. It's completely messed up. We went back to the emergency room again, and the doctor was like, oh no, something, because he saw something in x-ray. So he was like, we got to go back to surgery again in a month. So now instead of 8 months away, now we're like 5 months away, and he's telling me that I have to go back to surgery for this. And I was like, this is insane. And I just sat there, and we went through surgery. The second surgery was just terrible. So after the surgery, I'm sitting at home.
Do you know why the complication happened?
I think he left something in.
Oh.
I think he left something in.
But he's not going to say that, because then that's a huge malpractice.
Yeah, because he was like flipping out, and I was like, man, what's going on? So
left his keys in there. I was looking for those. No wonder.
He didn't want to tell me. He said that I had another tear, and he had to go through the back and all this other stuff. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
You don't have it beforehand, but now we have it after. Okay. But I went through the surgery, and at this point, now I'm like in the dumps because I think it was like 3 months out or 4 months out of the actual Olympic trials, and I was like, man, I'm in a straight leg cast. I hadn't walked for a month or 2 months at this point, and now I'm just sitting there. I'm like, man, this is terrible. So I'm sitting with this leg brace on, and then out of nowhere, my phone rings. Hey, this is it was someone else. I think it was Mark Carano or somebody from WWE, and I was like, no way. Because the last time I talked to him in May, and at this point, we're all the way in like, I think it's September or October or something like that. So we hadn't had any communication.
It's been like 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, and they just called me out of the sheer blue. And I was like, okay. And he said, look, we understand that you're waiting for the Olympics, and we understand this, and we understand that. However, there's a big opportunity. There's a lot of buzz that have been passing around the office about you. We really want you to come over here. We want you to come to Louisville, and we just want to sit down with you and see if you can bring you on. And I was like, I said,
You're going to limp to Louisville.
I don't know if I should tell him about this, but I said, yeah, I'm in. And then he said, all right, can you come next week? And I was like, no, I can't come next week. So I kept on like trying to like back him up a little bit, and then he said,
You didn't tell him about the leg. You were just trying to
no, I wasn't
push him
tell him
off
about
like,
I
got a
needed
thing.
something. Yeah, I kept on telling him I had this, that, and the other because I was wrestling for the Army team at the time. So I was still technically in the Army. So I told him I had to do some paperwork, I had to get clearance and all this stuff. So it bought me about a good month and a half. So in that month and a half, I mean, I was rehabbing like 2 and 3 times a day, just trying to, because I didn't know what happened. I didn't want them to see me with this leg brace on. And so, I mean, make a long story short, I made it to that day. I was rehabbing like crazy. Still hadn't walked. I was still on crutches. And they sent the ticket, so I had to go to Louisville the next day. I had the leg brace on, went there, and then I didn't take the leg brace off the first time until getting to Louisville because I didn't want them to see me, so I took it off. And my whole thing was, just walk slow, just walk slow.
Yeah.
Because you can always extend the handshake before you get there. So I was trying to walk really slow and extend the handshake so I wouldn't have to show that I was hurt. And I met Dr. Tom. He was there, Tom Pritchard, and he took us to Louisville. And the first thing he did, he was like, all right, I'm going to show you some different drills, and we want you to run the ropes. So the first time I even took a step was running the ropes after this long thing. It was the most
it's not like
ridiculously painful thing that I had to ever go through, but I had to just grit it.
And you did it.
I did it.
Could they tell that you were limping on it?
No, he actually said that I looked really good. He said I like the intensity when you're hitting those ropes and running back. I was like, man, I'm gonna cry. And the cool thing was I was down there with Ziggler. That's when me and Ziggler, we became friends. We were there together, and every night after we did part of the tryout, we would go back to the hotel and have a couple drinks. I'm hopped up on whatever and icing my knee like crazy, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can make it. But it was 4 days of tryout.
Oh my God! So you went through the 4-day tryout with the knee thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just so funny too, because when you run the ropes, you know, everybody hears guys have these stories of like the first time they ran the ropes, they didn't realize that the rope burn would hurt so much, but your knee is in so much pain that you don't even care about the ropes. Like,
yeah. And then my first day, so I was learning all kinds of different things. So I learned how to run the ropes, and then I was learning bumps. So when I left there I left there Friday morning after 4 days of training with those guys. I felt like I was in a car accident. I bruised my heel, I had a bruise on my back, my knee hurt, and everything else. I mean, I walked home just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this.
I thought you just wanted to talk.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I said, man, I thought I wanted to talk. So I did a whole bunch of push-ups and everything like that. So I mean, I was looking good, but actually had to do something. So that was really challenging.
when you see OVW, because obviously this is a small place, right? Like, it's not the glitz and glamour of WWE, and as a wrestling fan, you know what WWE looks like. Are you thinking like this will be a great place for me to learn, or are you thinking like, hey, like I got this amateur background, I look like $1 million, I should be on TV?
No, I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to learn. Because that was the one thing that I can take, and I think a lot of the amateur sports players would say the same thing is, it's like a shut up and train kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a very laid back person. I'm very humble. So when I went there, it wasn't, I do this, I do that. It was like, I'm the biggest person in the place. I have a fight background, but I'm very, very gentle with everyone because I really wanted to learn. Because I always say that this is my Olympics.
Right.
Professional wrestling was my Olympics. I got everything taken away from me from these 3 jackasses that came into the bank shooting it up. So this is my opportunity to do something again.
Was there anybody there that was like trying to test you to see if you really had it in you? Because, you know, you're a guy off the street. You look like a wrestler.
Right.
But you've never done any pro wrestling. You've never done any indie shows. Like you've lived amateur wrestling. You haven't lived pro wrestling. Were there people testing you and seeing if the big muscle kid could really hang?
Yeah, you know what? I was oblivious to a lot of things when I got into the wrestling business. I was completely oblivious to things, and as we go along, I'll tell you some of the other things that I had no knowledge of. But when I went there, I didn't know. And Cornette came with us at Impact, and he was telling the story about when I almost killed him. And I almost killed Cornette because we were running this storyline. And I was out there, and I was this big kid. I'm just picking people up, slamming them. Of course, I'm only doing like, you know, Goldberg moves, boom, boom, just slamming. And that's all I knew. They weren't teaching psychology, anything like that. But we had some stuff that we were learning in there, but it was basically pick people up and throw them down.
Right.
So I was in this huge feud, and then there was a part where Cornette came down, and he was cutting a promo, and my manager was supposed to say, all right, shut him up. So I said, all right. So I was supposed to grab him and slam him. Mm-hmm. And Cornette was just talking about this just the other day. And I picked him up, and for some reason, he came up like nothing. And when he came up, so I was like, oh, shit. And I threw him down. Oh, excuse me, my language.
No, go.
And when I threw him down, I mean, instead of body slamming him, I almost like picked him up and lawn darted him, like right down.
Like when you pick up that sack of potatoes, right? And so you have all this weight behind you. You realize it's styrofoam in the bag, and you just throw it up in the air behind you.
And that's exactly what happened. Man, this dude came down, it's like boom, and just like his body like just crumbles, and I was like, holy shit.
He's also the guy in charge, right?
Yeah, he's running the show, riding the show, everything. I was like, and I've heard him cut promos on people before, and I knew Cornette from going up, and I was like, oh Lord. So I go back to the back with everyone, and everybody's like, and everybody's sitting back there, and Cornette goes, motherfucker, and he just leaves. And I was like, I said, well, I better go home and start packing. And so the next day when we came back, everybody's sitting in there, and we were waiting for Cornette to come, and Cornette's coming because he wants to talk to everyone. And I was like, oh my God. I said, I'm just going to sit in the front, you know, this is me. I got to take it. So I'm just keeping my head down. And Cornette comes in here. He's like, you motherfuckers. And he's yelling at everybody there except me. And I was like, what's going on? I said, I don't know if this, he goes, the reason why this motherfucker is doing this and picked me up and almost killed me is because you stiff bastards are trying to deadweight him all the time. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But, but the whole thing was, when I first came in, I think everybody was just kind of dead weight me.
Right.
But I didn't know anything because I was in wrestling, and we had to pick people up and slam them anyway. So when they came at me, yeah, they dead weighted me, but I was just boom.
So you're just thinking that because you've never had the experience of body slamming somebody the way it's supposed to feel, you're like, this is what it feels like to lift a heavy man in the air.
Right. Yeah. So I picked him up like if I was going to physically pick him up, and he just came up so hard.
That's so funny because he was going with you, and you were like, what is this sensation?
Yes. So when he just yelled at everybody afterwards, and basically I was like, I don't know if this is a good thing, because I would much rather have him hate me than all these guys
Everyone.
hate me.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of got it afterwards, and they kind of at some point in time realized that I wasn't like just some big jacked up asshole that wanted to come in and throw my weight around and say, oh, I'm employed by the WWE, so I get whatever I want. And I kind of kept trying to humble myself and show that I'm not that guy. And it was one of those situations where I believe if you get, and I told people like this, I said, look, anyone, if Vince came up to you right now and said, hey, look, I know you don't know shit about wrestling, but I think you look like $1 million, and I think I can get enough guys to kind of work with you to make you look okay, would you do it? And most people are like, oh, of course I would. So I was like, then don't give people shit that get put in that position, because they're doing what they would do, and what you would do, what everybody else would do.
Yeah.
Like your Roman Reigns.
Right,
guys right now. It's like, what do they expect? They see Roman Reigns say, all right, I know you guys hate me. I'm just going to go home and not take the money that they're giving me, and not be on TV and not do all this and all that. So in my situation, I was like, of course I'm there, and I'm just going to do the best I can with what I have. And I was fortunate enough to wrestle with some amazing people. So
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Once you got to the main roster, and your first kind of storylines and series of matches are around that U.S. title, but it's with guys like Fit Finlay and Booker T.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to imagine that was done deliberately because they could be teachers to you.
Absolutely.
Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. I mean, the first person I worked with was Simon Dean.
Right.
And he was a trainer in OVW.
Right.
So, I mean, that was the easiest thing in most.
It's really, really
positions.
interesting because, like, you look at, because really good teachers and really good trainers should know everything inside and out. Like, the fact that Jim Cornette's reaction to you almost crushing his spine was that he was aware that the only reason you were doing that is because of your experience outside is like, oh, like he really knows what he's talking about. And the fact that you'd be brought up to the main roster then, and they're like, well, we want to make this guy look a certain way.
Right.
But at the same time, we need him to be able to eventually carry himself.
Right.
They're finding opponents specifically for you that can continue your teaching process while it looks to the audience like you're a master.
Absolutely.
You know, that's kind of an amazing thing.
And the absolute best person is Fit Finlay.
Is that right?
That guy is friggin' masterful.
Yeah.
He is like.
In what way? In just in the storytelling aspects and the details, like what?
I try to learn after him because Fit doesn't. He's one of those guys that you can put him in any position and it works.
Right.
And for me, a lot of times it's hard for me to go in the ring because I look so much more physically demanding or physically just. You put me against some of these guys and it's just like, all right, Bobby, just kill him. Because if he beats you, then it just doesn't make any sense.
Looks silly.
That's kind of like Brock right now. Brock's sitting in there, and you put different people with Brock, and you're like, oh, this looks interesting, but no way is he going to beat Brock.
Right.
And that's kind of how it was for me. But when I had the matches with Fit, it was almost believable. And he was the oldest. He wasn't my size. He just had that character that he just stayed true to. And it was really cool with him. I mean, there were some times where I was standing right in front of him and somebody would whisper in my ear to do something, and he's standing right in front of me. I'm like, man, this guy is like, everything that he did made sense.
Yeah.
Everything he did made sense. And when you look back at his matches, it was like every single little thing made sense.
And then do you come off that working with Fit Finlay, like we can make all this stuff work, like all these things on paper that we'd be like, no, that could never happen, or that doesn't make any sense. Like there are ways, like we can make this
Absolutely.
Work.
Yep.
But you just have to do the work. Like you can't be lazy about it, right?
Right.
Like you have to figure out new and interesting ways to tell stories.
Yeah.
So did you when you're there and you're on SmackDown and stuff, like are you dealing with the same stuff that you dealt with in OVW? Like, okay, this muscle kid from OVW is now up here and he's going to throw his weight around. Did you have to repeat that cycle?
Yeah, I mean, there's always those people. There's always those people that would do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody heard different stories, different guys that would try to. The one thing that I didn't get, I guess this was on my side a little bit, is there were some guys that took a lot of hazing, to the point where leaving or just, you would hear stories about, oh, so-and-so just got, I don't want to say names of people that were really hard on them or pull them down and just go on them. I never got that.
Right. Well, I mean, you're a huge man, too. You're probably like, we can push him to a certain extent.
Oh, only on TV. Only on TV.
That's right. That's right. But so were there guys that, like, you were worried about because you had heard rumors that, like, oh, this guy gives people a hard time when you get up to the main roster? And
yeah, there was. Like, one I was worried about was JBL.
Right.
I mean, they put me right in there, and then I was supposed to beat him for the title. I was like, oh, bro. What am I going to take with? But I'm telling you, with some of those guys, I believe it's like this. I grew up in sports, so I was in the locker room with the guys that you would consider like the linebackers that would consider like hazers or harder or anything like that. And I understood those kind of people. I understood the JBLs. I was around JBLs the entire time. And some of those guys, I took it as this. I took it as they're trying to protect the business. Because a lot of people are coming into the business that really do not belong in the business, so they're trying to protect the business. So when I came in, there were certain things that I did that would kind of earn respect for the guys. One of the guys, Bob Holly, love him, but he was known as, one of the guys that was a little rough.
Protectors of the business, we'll call them.
Yeah, he was
That's a
he was
right?
a stern protector, but I loved him, and me and Bob, I think I earned Bob's respect. Because we used to me and Bob would work, and Bob was super stiff. And for me, I wrestled for years, and I'm a glutton for punishment. I mean, fight now. So it really didn't bother me if I felt like somebody was a little stiff.
Right.
And I could be stiff too if I want to, just to let them know. They give me something hard, I'm like,
You
give
throw
them
something
hard
back.
too, and smile. Hey, come on, let's go. But I think where I earn respect for Bob always would like chop you so hard that it felt like he was trying to like rip you in half. And I remember one time we were overseas, and I did a spot with Bob where I'd throw him to the ropes, and I'd come and he'd hit up and over, and then when I'd turn around, he would just be right there and just whack, just like chop me so hard that I just dropped out on my knees. Oh God! And I would fall down. I mean, it was rough.
Yeah.
But it was part of the match, and I didn't see any other way of doing that, because to get the reaction that we wanted, he had to bring it. So we needed a sound, and he had to basically chop me in half.
There's no way to fake that sound.
There's not.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. We went overseas, still young, still new, and we ran that spot. I was like, all right, let's do it. Throws it. He goes up and over. I turned around, and for some reason, I don't know why I did it, but he rears back, and I went, like that. So I like bowed in. I was like, oh shit. And when I did that, he hit like, and there was no sound, just because I was like,
because it was just boom. Muscle.
And then we both kind of looked at each other, and I was like, and I reared back. I said, duck this, and I threw the hardest punch I could. And then he ducked it, turned around, I opened wide open. He just, bam, and he hit me with everything he had. I went down on my knees and just laid down. And then I laid there, and afterwards he was like, oh man, that was awesome. And
right. So the fact that you figured out how to avoid the chop,
yeah,
but then knew for the show you needed it, so you opened yourself back up and just took it like a man.
Yeah, just give it to me.
At that point, he's like, no, he's a real dude.
Yeah, he gave me that. All right, you're tough enough.
Yeah.
Come on.
Got that Bob Holly fist bump.
But you know what? Bob is one of those guys. Like a lot of times I hear these different things about, oh, this guy's a little bit mean, or this guy's a little bit rough, or this guy's this. I think certain people have that prey on weakness kind of thing.
Sure.
They'll be walking through and they're looking around and they're like, all right, he looks weak, so I'm going to go over by him. And I think it's just how you carry yourself. Like, we're still in a combat sport, whether it's professional wrestling or however you want to look at it. I still look at it as the combat sports. So we should be trained as fighters, we should be trained as athletes, and we should be and we should learn the I guess art of it.
So do you think that that's an issue nowadays, that a lot of the younger talent comes in as non-athletes, strictly as like wrestling fans? This is really the last, like, whatever it's been, maybe 10 years, is the first generation of guys who grew up watching wrestling in the 80s. They're not athletes. They're just guys who used to wrestle with their wrestling buddies and then wrestle with their friends on a trampoline, and now they're in the pro wrestling business, and they don't have that locker room, athletic, alpha male, win at all costs background.
You're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you?
I'm just asking.
All right. You know, I think there's room for everyone.
Okay.
Wrestling business is a circus, but we're still. I believe right now we're in the state of reality TV. Okay.
Yeah.
And wrestling fans are always going to be there. The outside fans are not, because when I have people that don't watch wrestling, I'm like, hey man, you gotta watch wrestling. You know, I've watched it all my life. They're like, yeah, I saw Hulk Hogan when I was younger. No, watch it now. And if they turn to the TV and something is just so unbelievable, like you're like, why did that just happen? That doesn't even look right. We're losing fans because of that. Right. And I'm not saying it's the biggest guy or the strongest guy or anything like that, but it's the way that you carry yourself. Like I said, Fit is believable. He's not the biggest guy. And I think some people go out there and they just want to do the art of wrestling versus the actual fight of wrestling. So I think you have to have both. And if you have both on the roster, then, but if you're doing that style of wrestling, then there's certain positions that you just can't get, I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see somebody beat Brock just because they have some cool moves that they can do. Right. That's
if
just
you're
me.
looking at, like, the moves look cool.
Yeah.
But you're like, but that wouldn't beat Brock.
That's Brock.
Right.
And you can't bury Brock just because, oh, we want to make a cool match.
Right.
I don't like that so much.
Yeah, because it does. I mean, pro wrestling, as much as everybody now who watches knows what it is, it's the show on all of television that I think requires the most suspension of disbelief for it to be real. I mean, it requires a suspension of disbelief that is of the level that if I see you, Bobby Lashley, on the street, I'm thinking about your storyline. Like, I'm thinking of the character on TV. If I see, Rick Grimes on the street from Walking Dead, I don't think that that's Rick Grimes.
No.
I think that that's the actor from The Walking Dead. But when you see a wrestler on the street, wrestling fans think, well, that's Sasha Banks, not Mercedes. That's Seth Rollins, not, like that's the guy from the show. And I guess you're right. When you start messing with that suspension of disbelief, it kind of puts the whole thing that you guys do into haywire. Yeah. So you go to ECW, the new ECW.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
This is where I was talking about before, where I was completely oblivious to everything going on. Let me just start with saying that. Let me, because we're talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay. The December to Dismember.
Right. One of the classic pay-per-views of our time.
Don't make fun of me, because I had no idea anything was going on. I had no knowledge. Like, when I was in wrestling, like, you got to understand, when I was in wrestling, we didn't have dirt sheets. We didn't have any of these things before. So when I got into wrestling, into pro wrestling, I never looked at any of that stuff.
Right.
All the way through my time in WWE, I didn't know anything. I never looked at anything. And I remember I was riding with somebody, I think it was Kennedy at the time, and he was like, man, so-and-so is like writing for the sheets. And I was like, writing for what? Who is he writing to? What are you talking about? I mean, who is he telling this stuff to? So
the concept was foreign to you. Yeah. Not like I just avoid the websites. Like I
didn't even know they were there.
Right.
I didn't even know they were there. I guess that's my ignorance. Because I was always in that shut up and train kind of mentality. I didn't know anything about any of those things. I couldn't tell you a site, anything like that. So all this stuff was going on, and I was like, afterwards, I was like, dang, they used me as a ploy to like do a lot of different things. But they paid me, so.
Yeah. So did you realize after the December to Dismember pay-per-view that it had gone, like everything, it had gone horribly awry, that this was like a pay-per-view bad enough that Paul Heyman's not going to be here anymore? Like, it's that level of a bad show?
Well, I'm kind of pissed off at Paul. I'm going to call him today, because I was talking to him at that pay-per-view.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, yeah, do this, do that. Because Paul had always been like I'm a Paul guy. I'm a Heyman guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was in OVW, he came down. He was doing stuff, and he brought me in. And we sat down for like hours and just talked. So he got to know me. He said, because I'm writing for the show. I can't write for the show if you're on the show if I don't have any idea who you are. He said, because I know you're not like the Mr. T, I pity the fool guy that they're going to always bill you at. Like when I came in, I was Blaster Lashley because I'm this big black guy, so I'm supposed to come out there and want to beat everybody up. but that's not me. So Paul came through and he found out who I was. So when we had that pay-per-view, he was talking to me about a whole bunch of different things. I didn't know that we were actually trying to bury ECW going through it. I was trying to do what I was supposed to do. Came to work, did my job, and then I was riding with Boogeyman, and he doesn't know anything. so we were just riding around like two big dummies getting paid in WWE. We loved it.
You got the ECW title, not realizing that it's just to destroy everything.
Yeah, they hated me. It's like, all right. And then afterwards, I mean, there was a couple of points of times where I was like, Vince has the ECW title. He beat me for it, and he's walking in here with a do-rag on.
Yeah, doesn't that go back to what we were just talking about? You're like, hey, you can't have these, really unbelievable finishes. Okay, we're going to do Vince over Bobby Lashley for the title.
But they protected it.
Right.
But I think that was Vince's way of like, fuck ECW. But as far as heat, nobody knows how to generate heat like he does.
I mean, he's the best at it.
Yeah, nobody knows how to generate heat like he does.
When did you start sniffing that, like, ECW was not the shiny new toy that it was intended to be?
When we went to ECW Arena, I don't think I was on that show or that pay-per-view. I might have been on it, but it wasn't about me. And I think it was Cena and RVD.
At the Hammerstein.
Yeah.
You mean when Cena got his shirt thrown back at him over and over again?
I was like, I think we should leave. I don't want to be here. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Bobby, you're in ECW. Like,
I know.
But I don't think I really am.
But I thought the whole thing was, like the whole time I was like, I get it. Put it on me and have one of those guys beat me for it.
Right.
and let me take the heat. But you can't keep me as a baby face. And then they go against the ECW guys. I'm going against RVD. I'm going against Sandman. And they're like, all right, yeah, we want you to take him over there and just kill Sandman. I was like, all right, it's cool.
You mean like the guy, everybody, the beloved Sandman that everybody in this building thinks is like the coolest guy ever.
Right.
I just kill him.
Yeah, just kill him. Just put him against the table and spear him through the table and pin him 1, 2, 3. I was like, all right.
Man, so you're the champion over there. What is it like to be involved? Because there's a few layers of this, right? We'll go through the layers. First of all, what is it like to be involved in a storyline with Vince McMahon? Because I would assume that even though at that time ECW is not the sweet spot to be in, being in a storyline with Vince McMahon has to be the sweet spot.
Yeah.
For that company.
Yeah. I gotta say this. I was fortunate enough in WWE. Like I feel like I was given a doctorate degree in a short amount of time, just based on the people that I've worked with. I mean, coming in and working with Finlay, Simon Dean, Booker T, JBL, Benoit. I mean, I'm sitting there working, and you have Undertaker overseeing things and coming over there giving you advice. Eddie, rest his soul, before he passed, giving advice.
Did you get respect from the Undertaker?
Yeah. Man, he used to come to me and he was like, man, because that's one thing that some of the guys in the business actually know what's going on. Undertaker's the best at it by saying, I can make money with him. And he'll groom you, and he'll make sure that you don't devalue yourself because I need you later.
Gotcha.
So he's looking down the road of saying, here, I can do some business with you, and we both can make money.
Instead of getting weird ego, like, I don't want anybody to do well, if you're the only one doing well, it's not good for business.
Right, yeah. What are you doing, squashing everyone else?
Yeah.
And he was telling me little things. Like, I was in the wrestling mentality, I'm low and everything like that. He says, when you go out there, your presence is important. He says, you're a big guy. And I was like, no, only on TV I'm a big guy. he's like, stand up. Let people see you. Let people see you. Let them, and he's giving me like little advice on different things when in the ring. I remember when you asked if somebody kind of like did some kind of like underhanded stuff when I was out there. Yeah, it happened. But then again, I was just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, man, thank you for the match afterwards. And I remember I did a match with one guy. I'm not going to say his name. I can't say his name. Because he's still kind of involved with some stuff. But it was like blatantly stuff. It was like, let me grab your head and turn your head like this and pop you in the chin. And I was like, man, that was a pretty good shot. And throughout the match, and I remember Taker and Benoit afterwards, they pulled me into office. And Benoit, he's all intense and everything. He's like, what happened out there? And I was like, I don't know. I won. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3 spear. He goes, nuh-uh. He goes, you tell somebody this. And Taker goes, oh. He said, look, we're professionals. He said, if you have a match like that again, you tell the person, we can either settle this here or we can settle it out there. But I'm not going to allow you to do this ever again. And he was like, you got to tell people like that. You got to be stern with them. He said, I don't care if they wrestle for 100 years. That is unprofessional. He said, so basically, in our eyes, if somebody does it to you, you got a green light to whoop their ass out in the ring. And I was like, this is awesome. Because I got these guys on my side. Yeah. But it never really had to come to that point that I had to do it. I had to rough a couple people up. But I mean, it's the wrestling business.
Right, right.
There's a lot at stake.
So what is it like to be in a storyline with Vince McMahon?
Amazing.
It is.
It was amazing. Because you got to think about it this way. A lot of times when you go to the show, you're like, all right, what am I doing? All right, I'm working. All right. But if you're in a storyline with Vince, it's going to be some insane stuff the entire time.
Right.
The entire time. And you get an opportunity. Like I go back to the point of saying it's like working. It's like getting a doctorate degree. I mean, Vince is the best at creating heat. There were certain things that he did, and I was like, they were beating my ass every week. Like Vince had me on my knees, slapped me and stuff like that. I'm getting just ripped apart, and it was just pure chaos. I'm jumping through cages, flipping over cars, trying to kill people. And Vince, he just looked at me, goes, when you give it back, it's going to be awesome. And that was it, man. And when I did, I mean, Vince was, 60, 70 years old at that time? I hit him with the chair like 7 times. He trusted me, this big jacked up green guy, to grab a chair and then beat the shit out of him with this chair. I was like, bro, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But you're learning everything like that, and you're learning how it is. And you're learning how to make the crowd want you to die so much. that's when you give it back to him.
Right.
And Shane was a part of it too. Like Shane loved it. Shane's awesome. Shane's like sending me pictures. He's like, look at this. When he jumped off the top and gave me the elbow through the thing and the coast to coast and everything like that, I whooped your ass. You know, it was everything that it was like just learning from the best. I mean, Creed, Vince can be the biggest heel or the biggest baby face when he walks out there. Nobody knows what he's going to do.
Right.
They say Vince is returning. You don't know what he's going to do, but you're going to have a huge reaction either way. He gets it. I mean, he's been around there the entire time. So the fact that he put me in a storyline with him and we ran it, I mean, I was just sitting there just watching and learning so much. Him, Shane, Umaga, Stone Cold was a part. I mean, there were so many people that was a part of this thing. It was.
Do you have to be extra careful with him, or is he saying like, "Come on, give it to me"?
He wants you to kill him.
He does.
Yeah, I mean, I was scared. Like when I started hitting him with the chair, it was like, boom, and it was like, all right, let me try to hit him soft.
Yeah, I don't need another Jim Cornette moment.
Right,
Yeah.
that's the last thing I needed. But no, he was like all for it. Come on, motherfucker. I was like, oh, motherfucker, huh? But it's. I think that's what kind of helps me out a little bit now with my character is remembering that. Because Vince would always say it. He was always say, we're not necessarily actors in the wrestling business, but what we are is you got to figure out who you are and turn the volume up. I know we've heard that a million different times, but even when you hear that, you think, oh, I know who I am. I'm just going to turn the volume up. I'm Conor McGregor. No, you're not. It's almost like turn the volume up of who you think you are, but then also turn the volume up of who they think you are and kind of mix the two.
Figure out what the perception is of you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like an equalizer, not just a volume button.
Right.
There's like the bass, the treble, and everything like that. You got a little bit here and a little bit here. You can't just turn this up because it'll sound like shit and it'll look like shit.
Yeah.
But if you turn a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and you start getting it, then you understand it. And I mean, like they say, is like in the wrestling business, you don't get it the first year, you don't get it the second year, you may not get it the 30th year. There's something in there that kind of like flips a switch where you start kind of, oh, okay, I get it, and then you start kind of implementing that, and then you start turning it up a little bit more.
So, what is it like when you find out that you're getting the WrestleMania 23, big poster? You could call it a main event. It wasn't the last match. It wasn't the title match, but it was the match. It was the match that Vince McMahon and Donald Trump were involved in. You find out you're getting that match, and then you're going to be working with the Donald. The Donald. How did you work a bunch with the Donald? Did you talk things out with him ahead of time? Did you?
I spent some time with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
He's awesome.
Is he?
Hate me now? He's awesome. And you know what? Here's with him, because I've been asked a lot about this, of course, now because everything that's going on.
He's the president. I don't know if you know that, but yes, he's actually the president of the United States.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me about it, and I said, to be right honest with you, I'm going to tell you, when he came on, he's not a racist. I hate to burst your bubble, but he's not a racist. I mean, because I'm a black guy, and he worked
not just on TV, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But or I could be his card, his
That's true.
Get out of racism card.
Yeah.
I got a black friend. You
can
show the picture.
Yeah. Everybody thinks I'm racist. Why don't you ask Bobby Lashley, huh?
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't know.
When they asked me, I said like this. I said, because a lot of people, when they come into the wrestling business, that like a celebrity or something like that, you want to know what they want to do. And with Donald, and I told everybody the same thing. I said, he didn't come in and start like pushing his way around. He came in and said, what can I do? How can I help? How can I make this better? He didn't tell me how to run the match. He didn't tell Vince how to run the show. He didn't tell Stone Cold how to ref. He didn't tell Shane he didn't tell anybody how to do anything that they were supposed to do. He said, I can help. How can I help? Tell me how I can help.
Wow.
Because to make a machine run, everybody has to do their part. And if you try to step on somebody else's toes and do their part, then your part's going to be lacking, and it's going to fall apart.
Yeah. He's
not that. He was completely said, hey, look, what can I do? And then he had that one spot with Vince where he came in there and pounded Vince on his head a little bit like that. And that was a part of him saying, can I do something? and Vince was like, you can take me down. And if you watch it, Vince thought it was so funny at the time because you know, if you go to punch someone, if you don't know how to throw punches, the hardest place to punch is on the top of the head. So Vince kind of like tucks a little, so he sits there like this. That's what he got, and he sold his hand afterwards. I was like, that's awesome.
But Vince was putting the head down, so that he was.
Vince like, oh, got him.
That's great.
But I mean, that's how it was. It was just him being a part of the story. And then afterwards, I saw he had a billboard in Times Square.
Yeah.
Where I was at. I mean, we did stuff in Trump Towers. Man, we had so many views.
I think I was at that press conference at WrestleMania 23 press conference at Trump Tower. Because didn't you put somebody through a table or something?
Put Vince through the table.
You put Vince through the table. Yeah, we're sitting at this press conference, and it's a legit press conference. Like, I was there because I was working for, I think, XM Radio at the time. And, like, all the entertainment shows are there, and there's TV cameras and the New York newspapers. And at the end of it, you put Vince through a table.
Impromptu.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No.
We had, man, first of all, I'm not slamming Vince. Second of all, we're at a press conference, regular table. He was just like, I think there was some kind of audible called in there. I was like, huh?
So was Vince like yelling at you, like, as you're doing this, like, put me through the table?
I remember there was no spot that I was supposed to put him through the table. But I think based on the way things were going, he needed the icing on the cake. So I don't know who told me, but I was like, all right, I just hope I don't slam him like Cornette. Not now. So I just put him through the table, and it worked.
I can't believe how fast this hour's gone. We're almost out of time, but I guess two questions. The first is why, I mean, it seems like when you look at your WWE career and you think about it now in hindsight, like it still feels like you got fast-tracked way up there, like you're this big guy, like you seem like the guy that the company wants to go with. Why do you end up leaving the WWE in a way that, in hindsight, seemed super abrupt?
Is it time yet? No, I mean, there were some things that we're going through at the time. You know what? I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
You can't wait the hour out.
You know, all I say is that, you know, it's always there's different circumstances that make things happen. There was a circumstance that kind of made it happen, but at the same time, I still had that competitive edge, and I wanted to fight. There it goes. I wanted to fight. The ability to throw these things and beat people.
Do you regret doing it?
Or
do the circumstances in hindsight not seem as serious, or do you still think it was the right thing to do at the time?
I probably. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
If I could have, I never wanted to leave. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I never wanted to leave, and I think right now I still have good relations with different people there. I still have good relations with Hunter. I still have good relations with Shane. Shane and I have been friends for a long time, and somebody's got to beat Brock. That's legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see, although there was a name you left out. I've still got good relations with Hunter and Shane. There was the name of a guy who
Vince. No, Vince. I talked to Vince a while back. He's like, yeah, we go down to Denver. He said, man, we got to get a workout in. I was like,
that's great.
You know I'm stronger than you, right?
Do you have any, is it a mixed bag of feelings knowing that a lot of people feel like the best work that you've done has been outside of the WWE? I think most people feel that, like, the best matches you've had, I feel that way, have been some of the stuff that you've done in TNA. And while that's amazing, because at this point in your career to now be having your best matches is kind of anything any athlete could hope for, but the lack of eyes.
Can we showcase it?
Yeah, has got to be a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. I guess when you're performers, you just want to perform at your best. Of course, you want to be in the bigger stage. Like, you don't want to have like a 5-star match in front of 500 people.
Right.
But I think for me right now, I think I have so much more left. Mm-hmm. You know, I just turned 25, so I have a good few more years left. Man, I tell you what, I'm in really good shape right now, and I'm not saying this to kind of like toot my own horn. Like, I'm really in good shape, like as far as like physically, mentally, you know, everything's together in my life right now. I'm not just a young kid that's just going out there and doing. I think right now I get it, and I think that right now my potential is through the roof. I think that I can go out there and have a match with anyone right now. I think I can go out there and have a match and make you guys love Roman Reigns and hate me over him. I absolutely believe that.
Use some of those Finlay tricks, huh?
I could do something, a little voodoo.
You think you could get the crowd behind Roman Reigns and to hate you?
100%.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
100%.
I'd love to see it. So you could see yourself back there at some point, if everything lined up right.
I think it needs to happen.
Yeah,
I think it needs to happen.
I think it's time.
You know, part of your career, there's certain things that you need to make happen, and damn tooth. Sorry, I lost a tooth, and it's hard to talk, so I keep sucking it in. So since we're almost to the end, I'm going to take it out and finish it. But,
there he goes. He took the tooth out.
I'm still pretty. I think there's just certain things that just need to happen. Like, I don't give a damn where it is. You know, with Mayweather and Conor doing that fiasco a few weeks back, two organizations looked through and said, look, we can make some big money with this, so why don't we do it? And I think right now, the legitimacy of Brock, I think Brock is a match that I want to have. I've never met Brock. We've never crossed paths.
You've never met him?
Never met him. Never crossed paths.
Wow.
But I can post a picture of my kids on Instagram, and people are like, go back to WWE and go after Brock. I'm like, this is my daughter. What are you talking about? And so with that, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I'd like to do, man. In the wrestling business as artists, because I'm going to put it as artists and athletes, there's people that you really want to have that good match with.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ Styles is phenomenal. Fucking Dolph Ziggler. He's trying to find his way. Man, somebody needs to do something with him. He's amazing. Roman Reigns. Come on, man. I mean, I know a lot of people hate him. Everybody got quiet. But you're quiet anyway. But he's a friggin' star, man. The guy looks like a star. I mean, you can hate him as much as you want to, but there's a reason why you hate him, because he's a star. Brock. There's those guys in the wrestling business that I would like to be able to challenge myself to go against. And like you said, when I was in Impact, that was the opportunity that I had to really go out and showcase some of the things that I was able to do and learn. My match with Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
Amazing, bro. Amazing. I can't say enough about him. He's going to be right up to the top in no time. Him, AJ, I mean, some of those guys, it's phenomenal. I had an opportunity to work with those guys. Jeff Hardy, you know, I got an opportunity to work with him in TNA. Kurt got me into the business. When he got me into the business, like I said before, when I was in high school, I was watching him in college. When I was in college, I was watching him at the Olympic Training Center. When I was at the Olympic Training Center, he was in WWE. When I went to WWE, he left, he went to TNA. Then I went to TNA. He got out. Started telling me he was going to fight. I went out, started fighting. He came back to TNA. I went back to TNA. And that was the first time that we met each other. He got me into business. I didn't wrestle him until 12 years into it. When we wrestled in Manchester, it was a good crowd. Man, I could go an hour with Kurt. We had short time. We were rushing everything. But that's another match that I would like to do again and really tell the story of it. Because I don't want Kurt to wrestle until we get that match that he brought me into wrestling for.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that I would like to get my hands on. I'm not saying it's with Impact or with WWE. I don't care. I love wrestling. And I've learned to love wrestling more.
Do you have any idea what's going on with GFW Impact at all? Like, now we find out Jeff Jarrett's out. Like, I think, like, for fans that just kind of read this stuff, it gets to a point where you're, like, exhausted trying to, like, I don't why is this a company?
Yeah. Shit, I might be the writer next week. I don't know. You know, it's so crazy. El Patron came, he left, and he's come back, and he's this, that, and the other. It's just like one of those things where you have to just, I can't pay attention to politics. My contract says to go out there and perform, and that's the only thing that I can worry about. And hopefully my check's been coming every 2 weeks. And
hopefully
I get paid and I get to do what I love, so I can. And if I need to make up the balance or make up the difference, then I can go and fight somebody and get some money and then come back. So,
well, this was a super quick hour for me. I was surprised when I finally looked down at the clock, and I feel like we only hit chapter 1, so we're gonna have to get back together and do this again.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, Beatdown Clan. There's a lot more to talk about, but we don't have time to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you could join me in thanking Bobby Lashley for joining us today. Thank you so much, man. And thank you all for coming out.